too well. And I'm actually going to have another translation out real soon. So.
Well, I like the fact that you were able to put books out in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
More people can do it.
Yeah, so being Puerto Rican but born and raised in New York, I spoke English all the time, so English comes naturally. But I know that for, example, my family doesn't look sick. We have people in Puerto Rico and many other Latin cultures that have invisible illnesses and deal with the same thing. So I want to make sure that my people know I represent on all fronts.
Hey, you know who it is. This is ZEUS CRUZ of Olympian Multimedia, and we are presenting you a special segment of BAM! Get Things Done. In this particular segment, we're going to be talking about the reality of writing. We're going to break that down to you. I already know you viewers out there are already looking puzzled, like, ZEUS, what do you have up your sleeve here as far as what's going on here? Well, I don't want to keep you in the dark, because if you look to my immediate right, you see we got a special guest. You've seen her on the show before. It's somebody that I'm a big fan of. It's a privilege to be her friend. I hope.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But also too, I admire her very greatly. She's a fellow author like myself. Very inspiring, very talented writer in the genre of children's books. So let me up her status a little bit here. Let me break down who she is. She's the author of the Kids That Care book series, including her newest book.
Sorry, for the dogs.
As you can see right here, I don't know if you can get, but we got the logo going on here, Kids That Care, and bam, there it is right there. Brand new, fresh copy for the dogs. Great illustrations. Let me open this up real quick. You know, I like to brag. I like to just put you out there. The illustrations are amazing, very captivating, colorful. Let me go on with the accolades. She also has another book that's also called My First Storybook. So she's doing it big right now, guys. Putting 2 books out at one time. Beautiful thing. She's also the creator and headliner for the upcoming Central Jersey Book Festival. Yes, I'm included too. I'm going to be there. Surprisingly enough, she gave me an invite. We're here live on location here at, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it correctly, Sayin House and Gardens in Hamilton Township in beautiful, illustrious New Jersey. Give it up for author J. Logan. How you doing today, Ms. Logan?
Good. Steamy, but it's nice out.
It's a little steamy, a little gray. I thought it was gonna be a little bit more colorful, more sunny out here, but we're just gonna deal with it. At least it ain't super duper hot.
Right. And the view is amazing.
The view is amazing. It would really suck if we were sitting up here and we're getting killed with all kinds of sweat coming down our face.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be able to talk.
I mean, it's still early. We'll see what happens. But.
It's still early, yeah, because we definitely feel the heat coming on. But like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's called The Reality of Writing. As you guys know, we're both authors. We've did videos in the past breaking down what type of authors that we are. I just mentioned that she comes from the genre of children's books. I, for one, come from the realm of short stories / poetry. But in this particular segment, we want to highlight the theme of how our personal experiences affect the way we write. So in this segment, we're going to go into an in-depth discussion on how our personal triumphs and tribulations contributes toward how we approach our writing projects. So to get this shebang started here, for our first point of interest, we're going to talk about how we draw inspiration from our daily life. So obviously, you have a family, I have a family, all the intels that come along with it. You're working on other things as well, getting things done. Sometimes it can get a little bit hectic. We definitely run into a lot of different situations in a given week that could kind of end up being a setback in a way. And obviously you have to like rise above adversity and kind of get yourself together, stay focused at the project at hand. So Jay, how do you draw inspiration from your daily life?
So sometimes you're sitting there and you're like, I'm gonna pen the next great novel, and then your screen is blank, or now you've lost yourself down a Google rabbit hole of scariness. And I do love it whenever I see those posts about writers and our Google search history. Yeah, like it's interesting. But when you just can't find the inspiration there, or it's just not happening, you can find it when you're doing small things. I was at a street festival and a friend of mine came over and said, you know, I love my dog so much. You should write a book for the dogs. And I said, what do you mean a book for the dogs? And she said, you know, like a book of barking and other noises that dogs make. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And then I took it and I went home, and I have a puppy who I absolutely adore. Her name is Sandy. She is the main character of the book. And I said, you know what? Sandy does do things. And when I say things, she gets excited. And so I use that inspiration of just playing with my puppy to write the book for the dogs. And the dogs do respond when you read the book to them. I did research on the colors of the book so that the dogs can actually see the pages, and you know, just from an amazing little conversation at a street fair. And I thanked her. She's in my acknowledgments for the book. I turned it into this fun, creative, and I think kind of new idea of writing a book to read to your dog.
It's definitely interesting. It's not something that you see on the market a lot. People writing specifically to incorporate like their pets, which is a really novel idea. I know for me personally, I have kind of like 3 layers when it comes to my life. So just the personal things that I'm going through and things that I'm working on. A lot of you viewers already know that, yes, I do operate Olympian Multimedia, but I do have a day job as well. So just dealing with all the things that come with my day job and then just trying to operate a business, that's where I pull from these different experiences as far as my interaction with people, just given situations that I'm in. Sometimes it can get a little bit hectic, but sometimes between what's going on, you tend to find a little something there that you can work with that it seemed interesting enough to go ahead and write about.
Yep. And when you talk to children, I talk to children all the time at events because that's my genre, and they are just so freaking interesting. They were telling me about stories that they wrote and things that they've done. And I said, you know what? Why can't they write a storybook? I remember my children drawing these beautiful, elaborate pictures and telling me what was happening in the scene. So with my first storybook, that's exactly what I thought of. Is, you know, the combination of talking to these wonderful children at the street fairs that I'm at and remembering my children's childhood and saying, let me do that for them. Let them know what the important pieces of writing a book, right? You're going to need a cover page. And so the cover is very plain. It's just a plain white cover, and it says my first storybook, and those are color. You can color those 4 letters in as well. But the cover is up to them. The acknowledgement page is up to them, and I give them instructions on what to do. And then on each page, you have half of a beautiful blank slate for them to draw a picture, and half of it for them to write about what's happening in the story. And it's like a wonderful journal of them being able to just share stories, and I love that because they're going to be the next wonderful children's booksellers. And, you know, and even at the end about the author, I'm not the author of that book. They are the author of that book, and so I leave a spot for them to share information about themselves.
Awesome. And just for you viewers out there, we're dropping some gems here. Hope you're writing them down, taking them in. A good point that you make, and we could kind of like just break it down to just its simplest form, is that less is more. Like you can actually take something very simple. It doesn't have to be this elaborate, complex concept. You can take something simple in your everyday living and actually write about it. Don't ever be in a situation where somebody tells you that what you decide is going to be your topic, that's not good enough. You know, you can express yourself in more than one way. Even if you were just talking about like how we're here today, just walking through the park, you could literally make a whole story out of it, a poem out of it, short story, novel, whatever, and expand upon it the way you see fit. Let your imagination just run wild.
Right, absolutely. And then there's stories that have been told time and time again in different ways, and never be afraid of that, right? Romeo and Juliet. That's a story that has been told 100 different ways. Cinderella. So many different ways these stories have been told about someone who, you know, fell in love and they shouldn't have been together, or someone who was treated as less than and kind of fought their way to the top. It's okay that it sounds like another story. It's your spin, it's your taste, it's your experience that you're bringing to the tale that people are interested in seeing.
Definitely. And you know, we talked about it in the past about writing. Most people are not that going to read your work or read your books, may not know you personally. So you definitely got to put a little bit of yourself in there, a little bit of your personality, so people could kind of get a little bit of a wavelength on why you went about writing what you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just put a piece of yourself in there. Definitely people will appreciate that, resonate with it, makes it a more personal.
Yep.
As far as they're going ahead and reading your work.
I personally feel like my blood is pumping through my books. Like, that's how much of myself I put in there, and I love that. I think that's what makes my book so thoughtful and caring to people. And they see that, they're like, wow, I really get this. It's because I put myself on those pages. And if you want to write, and if you want to publish, and whatever it is that you want to do, put your blood into it, put your sweat and your tears into it, because that's what makes it more meaningful for other people.
Definitely. Just like how we're doing here, sitting here having this conversation, we're definitely putting some sweat into it. That's for sure. So, let's move on to our next point of interest, when we're going to be discussing triumph versus tragedy. The pros and cons of writing through these descriptive concepts. So I know I get asked a lot of times, they'll be like, Zeus, I read some of your work. Sometimes it seems to be a little bit graphic. I do get the feeling that you're talking about yourself. I feel like you're going a little too in depth. Maybe you could have held back a little bit, but I feel like that's my signature. I feel like, me personally, I'm an open book. I don't really hide nothing from nobody. You want the answer, or if you ask the question, I'm gonna give you the answer. That's my approach when it comes to like writing books. So, Jay, what do you think are the pros and cons? I mean, is it a good thing, especially from the tragedy part, to really put into your books like some of your downfalls and some of the issues and things that you go through in your life? Do you think that's a good thing for an author to do?
Well, that's how I started, right? With Mommy Doesn't Look Sick. And that we're talking, it's actually 10 years now since I had that diagnosis of very rare liver disease, and just being scared out of my mind that I said goodbye to my children for the last time. And then knowing how far I've come from that moment is just, it's amazing to me. And knowing that my story has helped people. Not as many as I would like. You've got to buy the book in order to, you know, benefit from it and learn from my story. But, you know, we're out there and we're sharing it, and it's my first Spanish translation book because, you know, I'm Puerto Rican. I want to make sure that it absolutely is out there for my people. You know, my English, my Spanish-speaking people, I will gladly translate it to other languages. I don't know them, but if you want to see it in a language and you know that language comfortably, reach out to me. I have no problem translating it because it's a message that should go everywhere, because it shows that there's hope even in a point that could be dark.
I know you're going to have to break it down for me. I know a lot of you viewers out there appreciate your support and subscribing to the channel, but I know y'all were probably going to look at this and be like, Zeus, I know you. Yeah, you're Hispanic, but you can't talk Espanol really fluently. You know what I mean? So I might need you on that, Jay. Do some translations for me.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm a little behind the times on that. I'm gonna try to work on that though. You know, but I'm definitely rep my heritage. You know what I mean? All about Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Boricua.
That's right.
But definitely I feel where you're coming from. I think it goes back to what we were saying of just putting yourself in your books. You want to write in a way where people can resonate with what you have in your book, whatever concept that you come up with. What's the best way to start off with if you just talk about your experiences? You don't necessarily have to put the actual names and go really in depth with the situation. you know, obviously you could change things up, change the name, change the narrative, but, and, you know, write in kind of like a metaphoric way. But still, what a beautiful thing if somebody reads your work and they pull something from it, because they're just like, man, I feel like you wrote this book for me. It's got to be a great feeling, a great sentiment for someone to tell you that their book resonated so much to them that it affected them in one way or another.
Absolutely, and people have done that, and I had a friend call me crying how beautiful the story was and how much it helped her and how she felt seen, and that meant so much to me. But when I started writing the book, I put so much into that book that it made me cry. It made me, you know, feel all of my emotions again. And I said, okay, I got it out. I got it on paper, which is so therapeutic. And I know people out there know that. And then I said, all right, now what do I want children to know? Because I don't want every child to read my book and cry, and that's not what I'm doing. The point is showing them and empowering them of what they can do, what they're capable of, how they can be helpful, and that's what helps the entire family, right? You don't tell me life is terrible, tell me how I can make life better.
Yeah. So that's a really good point, because sometimes we kind of lose face with that, you know what I mean? Not that we're trying to tell you inspiring writers out there, if you're trying to work on your first manuscript or even your 10th, 11th, 20th manuscript, to change the way you're writing, change who you are as a writer. But sometimes you need that. Like, even if you're going to talk about the tragedy part, you did have some type of triumphs and some good parts in your life. Why not share that as well? Let people know there is light at the end of the tunnel, that there's hope, there's faith. You just persevere, pull through. There you go. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You'll end up getting some good results, or some blessings might come your way.
Absolutely.
So, and also too, I just want to bring this quick point up about discussing with tragedy and personal struggles. I like the spin that you put on there, that you can put it in a positive way. You know, so I definitely read a lot of people work, especially from poetry, where people seem like it tend to get like a, how do you call it, like a bad name, bad rap. Like, poetry seems to just be always depressing all the time. It doesn't seem, how can I put it, like it could be more lighthearted in nature. It could be, depending on what you're writing on.
Right.
But the fact that you could put your own spin on it, like you said, that even if you're talking from a dark place, you know, you can still writing in a way where it's like people, when they read it, they can sense, like, you know what, there is hope at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
And there's always hope. Every day you open your eyes, there's hope, right? So that's what you have to focus on. Focus on the good of life. Focus on the positive that's out there. And every tragedy that you suffer, know that you got through that. You've gotten through 100% of your bad days, right? And so write about what you need to write about, but always put that positive spin, because that's what's going to help somebody someday. And your work absolutely can be dark, but I love that about your work, because it's real. It's there. It's like guttural, but it's not hopeless. It's never hopeless. Like, reading your work, I've never felt like, okay, I should call Zeus and see if he's okay, and maybe he's not near that ledge. But you're not. You know, your work does show that there's more, and you're just kind of demanding it when you write.
I appreciate that. I mean, I definitely get that from people who have read my work. Like, I think you really went on the dark side on this one. Like, maybe you want to bring it down a couple notches. But I just feel like I need to be as authentic as I could be as a writer. Again, I could be a lot of things, but I feel like I'm a very honest, truthful person. You know, like I said, if you're gonna ask the question, I'm gonna give you the answer. That's basically how I go about my whole life. So in my writings, it might seem like that, and it might seem like my whole world is bleak, but I hope the reader will take that, you see, I'm still here. I'm keep writing these books, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So clearly I haven't succumbed to the darkness, as some people quote. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna put nobody on blast out there, but I haven't succumbed to it.
But you know who you are.
You know who you are. But, you know, I just rise above it. You know, at the end of the day, you're just gonna take your experiences. There's no gray area to stuff. You're either gonna manage or you're gonna end up letting it be your downfall.
Yep.
You know, so it's a great thing that we use our writings, our books, as a way, as a platform to express ourselves. Going back to what we were talking about of just using it in a therapeutic way. You know, I think that's something that I kind of gathered from other authors as well. You know, it's not just about putting yourself out there. You're doing something that you're passionate about, but it's also therapeutic too.
It is, absolutely. And it's not even just about writing the book. It's about writing the post that goes with the book. It's about you writing a flyer to go to an event where you're selling your book. There's so many different ways for you to be creative and get yourself out there and just kind of like, all right, I'm going to test this boundary this time and maybe I'll do a video here. And you're able to express yourself on so many levels. So it's not just about writing the book. It's about showcasing yourself in the most amazing light and just putting yourself out there.
Definitely. I couldn't have said it any better. So we definitely want to pick your brain a little bit, Jay, and this is going to be more directed to our viewers out there about providing them with tips of the trade. So for those who are aspiring, specifically for those, obviously if you have a history of writing books, you pretty much probably got to nail down pretty well your process of how you go about putting your manuscript together. But those who are aspiring or haven't even, they got the idea, but they're having a hard time putting it on paper, putting together their manuscript, what kind of tips could you give for them to kind of get them over the hump?
Write it on paper. Write everything on paper. And I don't mean pen and paper because that's probably so old school, but I still do that sometimes.
Nah, I do that.
I love that. But I'm Gen X.
But I'm
it's
old
okay.
too, so.
Right. So and then just pushing through and forcing yourself to do it. Your writing is going to be as serious as you take it. So if you think you can pen the great novel sitting on the toilet, all right, sure, but 45 minutes is not really going to be the greatest novel in the whole world. But set time aside every day to write. Set time aside to review your writing. Walk away from it. Like once you think you've written the best thing ever, take a 2-week break. Read it again. And then don't be afraid to edit it. You're going to be your harshest critic, but you're going to be your best friend.
So Jay, you made some good points there. I know for my tips, I don't know if you guys really want to listen. I know y'all be tired of my voice half the time, but I guess the best advice I give people is do not be afraid to fail. Embrace it. So I know that's probably a real negative thing, like ZEUS, why do you want us to fail? I don't want you to fail, but failing is inevitable in my opinion. Because especially we're here talking about putting our books together and using our experiences to come about our concept for our books. You're not going to knock it right out the park. Your first manuscript, I know my last book that I put out, Mixtures, I believe I rewrote it 5 or 6 times before I actually had the final copy. So I know to some people, it's a little bit too much. They feel like they got a really good idea. They took your suggestion, wrote it down, they got it all mapped out, great outline, they start sculpting it. Oh man, this is looking good. And then once they start getting to the finished product, they're just like, man, I don't know what I was thinking when I was putting this together, and they end up giving up. You just have to understand that failing is kind of part of the process. You're not going to put the greatest manuscript out right off the bat when you start writing. You might have to change things up numerous times before you get to the final product. Just don't get discouraged. If anything, use that as a tool for motivation to kind of show to you, right, that, okay, this didn't work out, let me move on to my next plan. That didn't work out, let me move on to the next one. That's the beauty of life, right? It gives you time to redeem yourself,
right,
so that you can get better. Because it's not just about putting the books out. It's also trying to improve yourself as a writer as well. Improve at your art form, at your artistry.
And develop your brand, right? So not everybody's going to get that big publishing deal out the door, out the gate. And so I was told by so many independent authors, your first book is going to be terrible, you're going to hate it, it's going to flop. My first book, I still love. Absolutely. I want people to know that. Don't listen to that hype. But at the same time, it didn't just fly off the shelves. I am not a millionaire by any means, nowhere near that. And my second book, when it came out, it sold more copies of my first book. My third book, when it came out, it sold more copies of my first book. You're building a brand, and when they start to like you, whether it be your first, your second, your third, or your 25th book, they're gonna look back at what you have in your library, and then you're gonna take off. And you just don't know which book number that is. Just don't stop yourself. Do it. Push yourself. Achieve what you want in life. Don't let anybody tell you anything else.
That's a good point. You know, like right now, presently, I'm working on my 10th book. You know, quick plug there. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, I'm not trying to brag and that. You know,
I'll catch up.
I'm just going. You already there. You ahead of me. Trust and believe you're ahead of me.
Not.
You dropping 2 books at one time. I ain't never did that. That's for sure. But certain books were flops, and I'll be the first one to tell you that. You know, after the book came out, you know, I tend to like reread just to see what kind of scope I get from it now that it, you know, the book is out, and I'm just like, man, this is a little bit of a doozy here. Not from like a grammar or anything assorted with that, but it was just like, man, I really just could have tightened my writing up overall. It's just wasn't really coherent. I feel like it was a little bit too abstract, all over the place. I felt like certain parts of the book, especially I have a couple books where I have like essays. I wrote essays in them, and I'm just like, man, I really dragged this out bad when I could have just kind of like simplified it a little bit. So you're going to go through that, but it doesn't stop me from writing, you know. And you make a good point too that, you know, you're not going to get the big publishing deal right off bat. It's all about building your brand. It's just like with a business. You know, you're going to have to get momentum over time. If you know anything about business, you know your profit margin is razor thin probably in your first 3 to 5 years of being in business. Because whatever you make, you're just going to put back into the business. So you got to stick with it and understand that over time it's going to get better.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and when you don't have the publishing deal, you have the freedom to go and make your edits and
Yep.
re-release your book. You're not answering to anybody. We're in the day and age where you don't need a publishing company today.
Yeah.
You want them to support you. You want them to push you. But, okay, you don't have it today. So publish it yourself. There's so many different ways. And, you know, I help other authors format and get ready for that wonderful process. You know how painful it can be to make sure everything is in the perfect line, especially children's books with the images and the bleed lines. I tried to not rip my hair out, but now I'm an expert at it and I can format it and get it ready, and you know, that just makes my life that much easier.
See that? You know, I'm just trying to catch up with her. She's so far ahead of the game right now, it's ridiculous. But that leads me to our last point as I shuck my notes over here. You know, since we're on this, you know, it's okay to kind of brag a little bit, you know, put yourself out there a little bit. So this is plug time. We're going to be plugging something right here. You made a good point about helping other people.
Yes.
So there is something on the horizon.
Yes.
Can you explain that to the viewers real quick, or how you're going to be helping authors?
Yes. Wow. That got close real fast. So, I attend so many different book festivals, and I'm very excited that I'm at a couple of them this year. However, I live in Central Jersey, and I haven't seen one in Central Jersey. I usually have to do a good deal of traveling to get to one. So I worked with the Woodbridge Chamber of Commerce, and they graciously agreed to sponsor the events, and we're going to have a Central New Jersey book festival. The Woodbridge Public Library is going to help us as well and bring volunteers to host the event, but I want independent authors. I want authors that are out there that want to get their book sold, that want to get it seen. You just need a hungry audience. Well, Woodbridge doesn't even have a bookstore. So they're very excited to have all of us wonderful authors come there. And I'm going to be there, and ZEUS is going to be there, and we want you there. And there is definitely limited space, but it is November 16th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. is the actual event, and it's in Woodbridge at the Ross Street School in Woodbridge, and it's going to be amazing. I promise you. Make sure you come, and if you're an author, make sure you register. Spots are limited.
Definitely. And we also have, I believe you're going to be there as well, the Collinswood.
Yes,
The
October
Collinswood
5th.
Book Festival. That's October 5th. If you're in the neighborhood, or even if you're not, come on, man, just make a day out of it and just come out here and support us. Yours truly and myself is going to be there. So why not just come, grab yourself a book, come on.
Yep.
And just have a conversation with us, take a picture. I mean, come on, man. It's not It's not gonna hurt you. Come out and just come chill with us. Us
Oh,
authors.
and I do want to just add though, don't forget to get For the Dogs and record that video reading to your dogs, because
Yeah.
I'm collecting those and those are going on my social media page, and I will gladly tag you and make sure that your dog gets all the love that it deserves.
And let's show this love real quick to Miss J. Logan. We got the books right here. Let me put them in chronological order right here. We got the first one, Mommy Doesn't Look Sick. And she just recently put it
In Spanish.
in Spanish form. So for our Latinos out there,
Mami no parece enferma.
okay, you didn't have to show off like that right there, but it's okay though. It's okay though. I love it. I love it. But definitely, this is our first book. Second book is Holiday Cookies.
The translation's almost done on that one. That should be released.
You see how
soon.
she ahead of me? I ain't got none of that going on for me. Again, the illustrations are great. Again, these books are, the reason why I love her as a writer is these are meant to be children books, but I feel like adults can appreciate them as well, just the way it's formatted and presented. And then of course, the latest one, For the Dogs, to read it with your pet.
Read it
Awesome.
to your pet.
To your pet. Something they can enjoy, get them involved too. You know, they're part of the family. Show
And-
some love to them as well.
Yes.
But definitely get this collection out there. It's available
On Amazon.
on
Or
Amazon.
through my website. There's a link to Amazon through my website at kidsthatcarebooks.com or jlogan.com.
So, I mean, come on now. Again, if you can't even make the festivals, make the events, you can at least go to Amazon. You're already on Amazon anyway. So you might as well go ahead and look up J. Logan, look up the books, and grab yourself a copy. You know, I mean, if you want to get Me Too in there, squeeze in that, you know, ZEUS CRUZ, you know, do that too. But it's all about Jay though. You know, never mind me. But definitely go get the books. Jay, I appreciate you sitting down with me and having this conversation. It was great. I hope you guys, you viewers out there, appreciate this. We're definitely all about encouraging people. You know, we definitely have a love for writing. And trust and believe you do have the ability, the skills to do it. I know you were probably early on trying to put your first book together, was a little bit nervous.
Stressful.
Nervousness there. You're just like, man, I don't know what's going on with this. Maybe this is not a good idea.
Absolutely. And you just push through it. You say, okay, I'm never going to get this formatted. This doesn't make any sense. This is horrible, terrible. Nobody's going to care anyway. How do you know? You don't know until you try. So put it out there.
Put it out there. It's simply put, just put it out there and stop making excuses, yada, yada, yada. You know what it is. Anywho, you know who it is. It's ZEUS CRUZ of Olympian Multimedia, giving you a special segment of Get Things Done with my guest, the illustrious, talented J. Logan. And we're going to check you later.